Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang saranang gacchami, dhammang saranang gacchami, sanghang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami, dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami, dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami, tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami, tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami, tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Panatipata veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Adinnādana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Kāmesu miccāchara veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Musāvāda veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Surameraya majjapamadatthana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, now let us do a short session of breath meditation. So please, once again, please check, just look at your screen or monitor that you have muted yourself so that you can focus, you can hear the instructions and focus on your meditation. During the sitting, remember, I'm giving instructions. This is not really a sitting meditation proper, just a short lesson for you. Give you the steps so that you remember them and then you practice them. Even then, if you are relaxed and calm, you will still feel some stillness, even peace and joy. So it's really how we learn to renounce. So every time we gather here, we are practicing temporary renunciation, not a ritual renunciation, but the real thing in practice. So we use the breath and then we renounce the breath bit by bit. The breath from being a physical body becomes a mental body. From physical becomes mental, and we focus on the breath deeper, deeper like that. Usually we start with counting, which helps beginners especially. Sometimes just counting is very helpful when you have lots of thoughts, or for young people, children especially. So once again, I remind you, if you find counting difficult, it's okay. You don't have to do it. It is an optional stage, but it can be very helpful for some people. If you find it difficult or you don't like it, doesn't matter. It's quite, about 50% of people are like that. You go straight into the second stage in your own practice. There are 3-4 ways at least of counting. So keep it simple. Today we try a simple one. Okay. When you breathe in, breathe out, count 1. Smile. In, out, 2. Smile. In, out, 3. Smile. In, out, 4. Smile. In, out, 5. Smile. You can stop at 5 if you like, then you count 1 to 5, 1 to 5 each time. Or you can go up to 10, 1 to 10, 1 to 10. or any number that you like in between 5 and 10. Choose one number for that particular sitting. At any time, if you forget or overcount, doesn't matter, just go back to number 1. Remember, don't force the breath. Just let the breath go, like when you are sleeping, peaceful like a baby breathing. Basically, it's learning to relax with the breath. Whenever your mind wanders off or thoughts intrude, just bring the mind back to the breath. Every effort you make will empower you, will focus your mind, at least keep you calm and still. You can also try imagining yourself smiling all the time, so you feel happy all the time as you meditate. That's the background feeling. Or smile at the distractions, especially. When you hear a sound, smile at it. Don't follow it. When you feel an itch or a creepy crawly feeling, smile at it. Don't scratch it at once. You find it'll go away, surprisingly. But if the pain is quite acute, quite severe, then check your posture. Don't force yourself. You can adjust your posture a bit. Now, as you count your breaths, you can feel becoming more relaxed. You can feel a sense of calmness. When you're ready, then you stop the counting, go to the second stage, normal counting. When the breath comes in, note it as in. Then the breath goes out, note it as out. In, out, in, out. For those of you who may notice some kind of movement or on the belly or the chest, or you feel the cold touch of the breath or warm touch of the breath at the nostril or somewhere around the front of the nose, you can use those points also, if you like, temporarily to focus. Notice the impermanence of the rise and fall. Notice the impermanence of the air contact. One way to sustain your focus is a bit of variety. Gently vary your practice. When you feel a bit bored, it's becoming a bit difficult, you can switch around a bit. In breath, out breath, smile. when you have nothing to do in your daily life, just make it a habit of breathing in this way, especially when you are in a safe, quiet place. Don't do this when you are driving or working with a machine. When you are calm and ready in safe place, you can do this breath. The idea is just to relax with your breath. Let it be. It's like letting your breath feel safe. And you're becoming more relaxed. Then you need less oxygen, so to speak. And your breathing slows down. You can notice that. You notice there are the spaces between your breaths becoming longer, more peaceful, more pleasant. Then you're ready for the third stage. The third stage, the key word is space, space. So breathe in and then notice the space, feel it peaceful, joyful, or bright. Smile. And then out. Smile. Your breath may not be regular, sometimes deep breath, sometimes slow breath, sometimes fast, sometimes slow, sometimes deep, sometimes shallow. Let it be. As the third stage progresses, you may notice you're feeling even more and more peaceful. There comes a point where you feel you don't have to say anything. You don't have to say in, out anymore. Because even that thinking seems loud. That means you are ready for the fourth stage. The key word is silence. The silence stage. You don't do anything but smile. Watch the breath. You know the breath is coming in. You feel the peace, the joy, the brightness. And you know the breath is going out in beautiful, joyful silence. Remember, it's not how long you sit. Occasionally, just feel the peace. So go to the safe spot, that safe spot of stillness in your heart. When you make a habit of it, you will naturally feel peaceful within. That's the idea. At this stage, let us review our practice. That means look back at your practice. Remember the peaceful moments, the joyful moments, the good parts. This is your good mental karma. Remember them, they will help you in your future meditations or whenever you need inner peace. When you're stressed up or angry or lonely or having any kind of difficulty, just remember this inner peace. Smile. So this is your review. Another kind of review is notice any difficulties that you face and then spend some time on strategy so that you're better prepared next time, what to do, what not to do. So this is the review period at the end of your meditation, just before you end it. Now, to end this session, we slowly open our eyes and just sit. This is called just sitting for a short while. We begin our meditation slowly, gently. We end it also slowly, gently. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, now let us get on with our study. Okay. Right, so now I'll share screen and slideshow. Okay, are you getting the big screen?
Yes.
Good, I think I'm getting the hang of it. And we're going to end. It's always we learn. I'm a slow learner. We learn things at the end. But we still learn anyway. So today we're going to learn about what we are. Okay, so you notice the first diagram is always the same. This is for those who have just come in, and also to revise, because we need a lot of repetition. We often know the same thing, but we don't really know it. We need to know it in depth. Let me just, for example, with some of my friends are getting married, or my students are getting married. I often give them one advice. I say, when you get married, you get to know people. You start to really know this person. So the Dhamma is like that. It's like getting married. You got to keep on knowing more. And only recently, for example, Ratna and I have been married more than 20 years. Only recently I discovered that she draws amazing drawings of trees. I didn't know this before, and they're really beautiful. So you discover this sort of thing with people, with the Dhamma. You keep on studying them. Don't assume you already know, okay? So, I've been studying suttas for 20 years in this time in Singapore. And when I translate them again, for example, the Kalama Sutta, I found there's something new I've discovered. So here are the 5 aggregates. Let's look at them anew, okay? So now you see, first of all, Buddhism begins, basic Buddhist psychology, if you like, that we are made up of 2 parts. body and mind, right? I've explained many times how this happens. So look up at any of the starting of the earlier videos, you get that idea. So we have body, we have mind. These are two aspects, according to early Buddhism, early Buddhist psychology. Then we look at what each of these are. When we look at the body, we talk of the four elements, the four aspects. They're not things, they are like the nature of the body. The nature of the body is like earth, the solid aspects like skin, bone, teeth. And then there's most of it's liquid, there's water, and then we feel warm, there is fever, but the real thing is decay. Decay is going on all the time, this heat element. And then there is this wind element, the air coming in, air going out, which sustains us, okay? So we're made up physically of these four elements, that's our body. Then this body is conscious. You know, that we have five senses, their faculties. That's how we become aware of the world out there. And we don't really sense the world out there. This is the amazing thing. You're not really listening to me. You hear voices coming from me, impacting your ear, but you're creating your own ideas as you listen to me. Right, the other day I was talking about the Kalama Sutta. After 1 hour, I say, well, you know, this is the Kalama Sutta, and the Buddha says this is not a what they call free-for-all thing. You're supposed to examine. And then this one person says, you mean you're not supposed to, you know, choose what you like? This person does not be listening to what I said, you know, so we listen to what we think we want to hear. And this happens all the time. It's not that we are wrong, but that's our habit. So this is what we have to deal with. This is really what you have to deal with, the inner talker, the one who creates all these views for you. We project what we see out there. We project sound out there. We hear what we want to hear. We smell, taste, touch what we want to touch. It's called perception, right? And then from there you get feelings. Because there's a body, you have feelings. Feeling means whether you like it or don't like it or don't care about it. And that is, it goes with perception. Although you find 1, 2, 3, 4, they actually operate all together here. So this numbering is just for convenience of teaching. And we've got to be careful about formations. This is when karma is formed, when you feel with greed, hate, delusion. You like it out of greed, you hate it, or you don't care about it out of ignorance, then karma is formed. Okay. So you've got to reflect on impermanence, in other words. And then there is consciousness, which combines body and mind, which makes this body conscious. So this is what we're talking about. This is the last of the 5 aggregates. So remember the 5 aggregates. Number 1 is the body, Rūpa. So here body is called Rūpa. Otherwise we use the word Kaya, but here's Rūpa. Okay. Number 2 is feelings, vedanā. Number 3 is perception, saññā. Number 4 is saṅkhāra, formations. Notice the open vowel and long vowel, plural. And then viññāṇa, consciousness. These are the 5 aggregates. Okay. So remember this. If you're not sure any part of this later during question time, please ask. Don't wait. The moment you're not sure, ask right away. This is your chance. Do ask it. And this is a wonderful opportunity to learn. Right. So now we talk about what is called the home of consciousness. Right. Buddhism talks about renouncing the house, renouncing the home, right? Here, but this consciousness keeps coming back home. There is this home. There is this domicile. There's this place, this roost, like chickens coming back to roost. The habit forming, they come back. So this is found in the Hadidakkhani Sutta 1, S22.3, where the Buddha talks about the 5 aggregates. So here the Buddha says the form element, house lot, is the home of consciousness. Viññāṇasa oka. Okay, oko or oka. Oko is the present, is the singular, what they call that, nominative. No? Viññāṇasa is genitive, it shows ownership. Okay, the home of consciousness. What does this mean? Form element is our mind's perception of something out there in what we can see. Okay. One whose consciousness is bound by lust for the form element is called one who wanders about frequenting houses. So there you are. The Buddha is explaining to us here in an almost modern language. We don't see this kind of language in other religions, especially 2,500 years ago. So the modern scientists and psychologists are amazed how clearly and simply the Buddha could describe these mental processes. So this form element, we see it with lust. If we see something we like out there, can be a person or a thing, so that becomes a form element in our mind. Okay, that's what's the meaning of element. So when we see this image, this form element in our minds, we keep thinking about it. That's the meaning of frequenting houses. We come back, we create that house for ourselves, we come back to it. We wander back to it in a sense of wherever we go, we look for that kind of place, that kind of house, if you like, that kind of hotel, if you like. So that is the form element. We go back to this habitual idea we have of form. That's the meaning here. We keep doing that. We are the kind of habitual, repetitive creature. Okay. Then next one is feeling element. Same thing. The feeling element is the home of consciousness. We feel something, we like it, and we keep thinking about it. That's the element, the feeling element. We keep thinking about it. Okay. And what happens when you keep thinking about it? You keep wandering back to this feeling home, if you like. Then you get hurt. You know, I mean, if you get more of it, you say, "Oh, you never stop." You say, "I want more of it." There's no end to it, and then you feel you don't get it or you lost it. You feel sad, and then sometimes you don't know what it is. Also, you feel sad. You suffer. So that's the problem. Okay, with the feeling element. It's not that we should not feel. What the Buddha is telling us, you should understand the nature of feelings. They come, they go, and that's it. Don't think too much of them. They come, very nice. You're happy, good, happy, smile. That's it. And then happiness goes away. Okay, and that's good too. And that's the thing. You know, that's why the arahats are happy all the time. When happiness or good feelings arises, they're happy. It goes away, they're happy. And there's nothing arising, they're happy also. They're in the present moment without trouble. That's the meaning of happy. It doesn't mean they don't care. They are very aware. You go to them, they're aware. They will answer your questions and help you, and so on. Then perception. This is the third aggregate. Remember, perception. The perception element is the home of consciousness. All right. You notice when we were reading, even proofreading this slide, we didn't notice the was missing. And somehow now we notice the is missing. So, well, of course, you can take the first the as representing here also, but it's good to have another the here. Just place it yourself. The perception element is the home of consciousness. Now, this is a bit tricky. This is how we remember things. Okay, if you think of that way as memory, recognition, sometimes we describe or we explain perception as recognition. Recognition, you know it again, you bring it back from the past. Right? That's how we define what we see in the present. You meet someone, you think of someone in the past, you say, oh, there's someone like him in the past. I like the person, therefore I also like this person. It goes something like that. So that's your home. That's the home of, notice it always says home of consciousness, because these things happen on the stage of consciousness. So this perception, you recognize things, people, events, or modern psychology likes to use the word association, also you can use that term also to explain, to understand this, okay? Then you have formations. This is the big one. This is where karma is formed, right? We start adding things, greed, hate, delusion into it. Karma is created. And that really becomes a big house, a big home of consciousness. And then we keep on building this up. So he is one who wonders about frequenting houses. So we are not renounced at all in this sense. We keep on wondering about, looking for form, looking for feeling, looking for perception, looking for formations, right? So consciousness is in the background, right? So that's why when we meditate, I say it is renouncing, because what do? We let go of views, we let go of seeing, we let go of hearing, we let go of smelling, we let go of tasting, we let go of touch, and so on, temporarily, so that we can focus the mind. Even watching the mind, we let go of views, we let go of wandering thoughts, unnecessary thoughts, okay? So in that sense, meditation is a kind of opposite of this renunciation. So this is a beautiful imagery here. Now we have another sutta, the Vedanā Sutta. Vedanā is a Indian lute. Okay, so this is from S35, Sutta 246. It's another view of the home of consciousness. Here the Buddha says, bhikshus, monks, these are, in other words, the Buddha is addressing us as a group. Bhikshus, if desire or lust or hatred or delusion or aversion arises, and should this arise in any monk or any nun, in other words, any man or woman, especially when you're meditating, in regard to forms cognizable by the eye. All right, so the sentence is not finished yet. So the Buddha is saying, basically, notice any of this desire, lust, hatred, delusion, aversion arise towards forms, towards things you see or not. Now look at the four Pali words, chanda, raga, or the raga, the first vowel has got a macron over the A, no? Raga, dosa, moha, patika. Now here, it's matter of intensity. Chanda is a kind of mild desire. Raga is strong lust, okay? So hatred is kind of like in between, which is always negative. And aversion is a bit more psychological, okay? A bit stronger. And delusion is something we don't even know it is there, right? It's a kind of a darkness that surrounds our mind. So when this sort of feeling arises, you might even have a mild liking or strong liking, a mild hatred, strong hatred, or we are confused about what we see. It's the first part, huh? And then what the Buddha said, should one restrain the mind, his thoughts from them thus, right? So we should pull back our mind or prevent the mind from getting into this kind of states where there is desire, lust, hatred, delusion, aversion. In other words, the Buddha is saying even mild desire, just let it go during meditation anyway. So restrain the mind, restrain the thoughts. Notice the word chitta here, right? We have talked a bit about chitta, mano, and viññāṇa. Here chitta is used. Chitta is the part of the mind that can be developed, that needs to be developed. So this is one way you can have your inner dialogue, your Dhamma, talk to yourself. Even when you're meditating, you're not focused at that time, so you can give yourself a short Dhamma talk. You say, this path is fearful, dangerous, thorny, thickly tangled, a wrong path, a bad path, beset by scarcity. This is an old imagery, of the dangerous path in the forest, in the jungle. So we've got to keep away from it, in other words. Don't take this road, okay? This is a path taken by mean people. It is not a path taken by worthy persons. This last part I like very much. You do not deserve this. You do not deserve this. You deserve better. We deserve better, and we can give ourselves better in this sense by restraining the negative qualities in our mind in connection with what we see with forms. Okay, so this centers around form. In this way, the mind should be restrained from these states regarding form, cognizable by the eye. Now notice the sutta language is very exact. Forms cognizable by the eye. Here there is this understanding that the eye only sees forms. The eye doesn't hear sounds. The ear doesn't see things, right? Of course, we are familiar with something called synesthesia, where sometimes some people, they have the experience of the senses seem to get mixed up. Technically, according to early Buddhism, this does not really happen, not the way we think. It happens in the mind. It's the mind that sees this cross-wiring. So in that sense, we can imagine that it is actually happening, all right? But it doesn't happen at the faculty level, not at the sense level. Because the senses have no ability except what they do. But the mind is the monitor, so the mind does all the cross-wiring, okay? Right, now the Buddha goes on to the second of our sense experience, the sound, same thing. Everything, this whole thing is the format here. Everything here is the template, it will be repeated for reflection. When it comes to sound, in regard to sound, cognizable by the ear, same thing. If you notice any desire or lust, hatred, delusion, aversion arising, restrain, pull back, let go of it. Tell yourself, this is a risky path. I should not take this path. I deserve better. I don't need to suffer. That's the meaning here. Okay. Same thing with smells, right? Smells not too difficult, I suppose. Unless you love food, right? You can just let go of the smell, go away. Our smells go away quickly anyway. Taste take a little longer. We are eating again. Just notice the taste coming, going. Taste doesn't stay stable all the time. It comes, goes, it comes and goes, right? Touches is how you feel to the room temperature, the feel of someone's hands, this good feeling. Right? So again, this is impermanent. So take it as it comes. For lay people, it is. Of course, for monks and nuns, you're not supposed to touch other people. So that is something, the training that they take up voluntarily. And then the last one is it's the most tricky of all. Number 6, thoughts. Bhikshus, in regard to thoughts, cognizable by the mind, right? These two, thoughts too, we should restrain. We let go of those negative thoughts. Come back to that stillness, right? We do not deserve this, to suffer because of all this desire, lust, hatred, delusion, and aversion. Okay? Right, so we can see all this by way of a cause and effect cycle, by way of what is called dependent arising. So here we're going to examine in very briefly how consciousness arises, okay? Using the traditional dependent arising formula, cause-effect formula. You can see 516 for details here, 516, SD, Volume 5, Chapter 16. All right, let's start with ignorance, okay? Well, because of ignorance, we do things, or we don't do things, okay? So you can see the arrow going up clockwise. We do things, we create ideas. That's what formations mean. We form ideas, we form views, saṅkhāra. And you see the little fire there. It can grow very big. You know, the Buddha warns us, even a small little, tiny little fire can burn down the forest. We only know too well in California and elsewhere, right? So saṅkhāra is a fuel of consciousness. It adds into the consciousness. It is the aggregate of clinging, right? So the 5 aggregates we have are called aggregates of clinging. The arhats also have the 5 aggregates, but they simply call 5 aggregates, panchakanda. whereas ours is called panchapadudana khanda, upadana khanda, the aggregates of clinging. We cling to it. We want more and more of them. You know? So from ignorance, we create these formations, cause, effect. Okay. Then, because of formations, consciousness arises. We become more conscious of something. We form ideas in our head first, and then this consciousness arises. That's why you give toys to babies. We make sounds, funny sounds with babies, because we are feeding them with information, saṅkhāra, okay? We are educating the baby, so to speak. So then the baby recognizes all this through perception, through memory recognition, right? But for us, we must always remember all this, whatever we are conscious of, are impermanent. They come, they go. Okay, that's the magic way of looking at things. Like, for example, you know, we do DHAMMA work. It's one of the toughest job you can do because it's always there with you, and you simply meet anyone, and the roles you play that's not really defined. So you got to keep on reflecting on impermanence. The people you meet, they come, they go. The people you meet, they're very nice to you one time, they're not nice to you another time. So you're happy, you're sad, it happens. But remember, you do this because you love the Dhamma, because you want to learn more, you want to better yourself, and you are training yourself. Okay. So once you understand this stage, then we go into a little more detail when it comes to consciousness. What happens on the conscious level? Again, let's look at the baby with a toy. We give this baby a rattle and it goes rattle, rattle, rattle. All right. So, and then the very bright colors, and you see the baby's eyes. Looking at it, we want the attention of the baby's eyes. So the baby takes a rattle, and what does the baby do? It tries to eat it. You notice it bites it. Babies like to bite things. Why? Because he wants to have every idea of it, the form of it. Okay, so that's form, Rūpa. And then the sound, you make all those funny sounds. You say rattle, or you say dog, or whatever sound, whatever name you give, right? So that's name. So you make the sound, the name. You show the object, the colorful object, the name. All right. So there's always name and form. Even as adults, you and I, when we meet someone new, especially online, you know, someone with a funny name, someone who comes with just one letter, with the letter I, you know, you say, can we have your full name, please, right? We want to know the person's name so that we can have a connection with this person, right? So you have the name, and then you have this form in front of you. That doesn't guarantee that you can be fully conscious of this person, but it helps. It's a good starting point. You have a point of reference, we say. Okay, so that's name and form works more or less like that, but a little bit more complicated in your mind. We create the form is out there. We have a vision of it, idea of it, and then we create this idea, name, in our heads. So that's name and form. It's a big teaching here, just name and form. But this is what we deal with in our daily life. And it is then when you put together all these name and forms, all these activities of name and form, you get what I call the six senses. This name and form arise or arises through the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind. So you have sound out there, right? That is a form, right? In Buddhist psychology, sound also is matter, by the way. Form, it's a kind of matter, sonic matter, if you like. And then the mind is the one that names it. Okay, so it goes back and forth, name, form, name, form. Okay, so sal ayatana, we pronounce as salayatana. Okay, sal is a special form of six. Sat, where it's close to English six, and then ayatana, sense basis. And because of the senses, the six senses, you have contact, sense impression. The senses make sense of things. The eye faculty sees light. So that's the contact. Ear hears sound and so on. Okay, that's contact. We'll look at this contact in detail a little bit more. Right, now that's not the end of things. In fact, it's only the beginning, right? So once there is this sense impression, this contact, feeling arises. You evaluate it. You say, oh, I like this, I don't like this, or I don't care about it, right? We have talked about this at length earlier on under feelings. And so on, right? If you look at the 5.16, you find that there are other details you can go into. But this is the basic idea, how our consciousness works to build up this cycle of experience from rooted in ignorance. Yes, some of you may say, wow, this is quite a lot to take in. But don't worry, you're not supposed to take in like reading a newspaper, you know. This is a lifelong lesson. Look at this again next year, 5 years' time, 10 years' time, 20 years' time, you'll be surprised. You will know more and more. So this is like a kind of a guide for you, right? So that's why the suttas in Pali, the Pali are like a fixed record of teachings, like computer programs, you know. So you kind of, you keep going back there and you keep comparing notes. You don't want to change the suttas. You change yourself, right? So this is how we do it. We notice change within ourselves. So there you are. This is the dependent arising, cause effect, cause effect. The cause becoming the effect becoming a cause itself, creating new effects, and it goes on endlessly like that. Dependent arising. Now, just now we look at the diagram in a circle. Now let's look at it as a kind of horizontal diagram. We can divide all those experiences into 3 columns. Okay, so you have sense consciousness, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, and then how we experience it. Notice, to know, to feel, to think, to notice. Right? These are simplified terms for the various aggregates. The one big word, cognize. Remember, we're not doing the psychology terminology of this. You get into big fights and big quarrels when you start defining them in that way. Don't define it yet. Learn to understand what's going on here. Okay, how is cognize used here? Look at it, all right? And then you have the external objects. So internal sense consciousness, external sense object, and this is the linking factor, the nexus. Ne? Okay, let's look at the first level of our conscious experience. Our I, okay? There is I consciousness because of, in other words, the attention that arises in the I, that's I consciousness. Cognizes. Cognizes is a big word, meaning to know, feel, think, notice, experience, okay? So cognizes. Forms. What are forms? Visual shapes, colors. This is what we notice, right? See that the word notice is there, right? So that's called I consciousness. In the next chart, later on, you'll notice why we use the word consciousness, and there'll be a triangle of experience coming soon. Okay, let's look at this, the words first, the terms first, all right? So next one is ear consciousness, okay? So in other words, you have the ear, and then there is this consciousness, you can hear, and then you direct it to certain object, you cognize it. What are they? They are sounds. They're basically vibrations, okay? Some are very soothing, some are very beautiful. There are different kinds of sounds, loud and soft, and so on. And of course, there is nose consciousness, directed to smells, different kinds of smells, strong smell, sweet smell, and so on. And again, we cognize them. And many of the smells are, you know, culturally acquired, if you like. For example, I grew up with lots of all kinds of smells. You know, in Malacca, we get all kinds of cultural smells. We have different races. They burn different things. They cook different things, and it's amazing the aroma of their food. You know, so we have different kinds of food. For example, the Indians would burn benzoin on Thursdays, you know, and then this benzoin got this very, to me, it's a sweet smell, but one of my sons doesn't like the smell, it's too strong. So you see the different way they cognize it, different way they react to it, to smells, okay? And then your tongue consciousness, how we taste things. So that's called the keyword, the overarching word there is cognize. So here you can add in all the other terms, taste, smell, and so on. Thing is there, but we didn't put smell, touch, no? But you can add it in if you like. So here, tongue consciousness cognizes taste. So the hint here is it's all in the mind, you see. So in the life diagram today, you see that how the mind actually controls everything. So here, tongue consciousness cognizes taste. But this consciousness gets that special kind of experience called taste only from the tongue, okay? And then the body consciousness, this is the skin, or those nerve endings, cognizes touches. Notice I use all simple words: form, sound, smell, taste, touches. Some people use big words like context and so on. I thought use simple words and then we understand it in our minds. It's easier. No? For example, other people use the word tangible objects. A big word, tangible, okay? It's called Latinism, right? Tangere, to touch. That's Latin. So in simple English, it's touch. So what is touch to us is movement, temperature, roughness also, right? So that's our body consciousness. Our body consciousness cognizes touch. There is a very interesting element of touch, right? Where you feel a certain soothing feeling, a certain sense of comfort. That's a very interesting thing we cognize when there is love, for example, like a mother holding a child, the child with the mother with the father, right? So that's another interesting cognition experience that humans, even animals, also experience. And then you have mind consciousness. Notice you have mind and then consciousness again. So it's the mind alone is not consciousness. You have mind consciousness too. And mind consciousness cognizes two kinds of things, two broad categories: physical sense objects, that is the 1 to 5, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body objects, and its own objects, thoughts. Sometimes we use the term mental objects for thoughts. Okay, so that's it, technical. Meaning, here it includes feelings, ideas, concepts, images, emotions. That's quite a lot, isn't it? So this is a broadly speaking, you have all this. Whereas in the 5 aggregates, we categorize feeling as one category, then ideas, concepts, images as perception, and then emotion as saṅkhāra, okay? And then, of course, consciousness. So there you are. We have the mind consciousness. So the 6 senses, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind, cognizes their own objects. So this is what this diagram is about. It's called, they're called the 12 senses. Why 12? You have 6 here, 6 internal senses, 6 external senses. Okay. Now let's look a little further into consciousness. Consciousness is not a thing, it's a process. It's something that's going on. We are always conscious of something. In Buddhism, we never thought of pure consciousness existing by itself. It doesn't make sense. Why does it exist by itself? You know, it won't be conscious of anything. So we're talking about it's always conscious of something. It's a process. You know, the thing about religion, we have to be very careful because we like to use words in a nice way, impressive way, which you don't understand. And whenever we don't understand, we say, "Ooh, this is wonderful," you know. It is stupidity, actually. And then the teacher says something we don't understand, and we say, "Ooh, this teacher is very wise." Actually, both are stupid. So be very careful. Religious language is confusing. We have to ask, okay, what's going on? What do you mean by this? So consciousness is a process of being conscious of something. Why? Because you have the sense faculty, under senses, as a sense faculty. We don't usually use the word organ, we use a faculty, a functioning organ, in other words. Internal sense organ, the sense faculty, external sense object, and this is the third factor, very important, attention. We mentioned earlier, right? So this is the one, you must have attention. This is the consciousness. There are different words for it. We'll come to those words in a while. Then you have experience. So in the Madhupindika Sutta, we have this teaching of the triangle of experience. This is M18. Madhupindika. Madhu is honey. Malay Madhu, same word. Pindika means ball, honey ball. Sutta, honey ball discourse, very sweet name. No? So this is where the Buddha mentioned, depending on the I and forms, I consciousness arises. The meeting of the three is contact. There you are, that's called contact, sense impression. So the meeting of the three. I faculty, form, I consciousness. Three get together, there is contact. It doesn't end there. When there is contact, there is feeling. And when there is feeling, you know the rest. It goes on like that. So you may have recalled some of the earlier lessons we talked about this, right? So you can switch eye to ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind, right? So there are all the three each, okay? And these are our experience on the sense level, okay? All right, so looks like I will need to stop for a moment. It's nearly 11. We'll take about 5 minutes break. We'll continue with, we are more or less halfway now. We are slightly over halfway actually. Okay, Ratna?
Okay, thank you, Piya. We take a 5-minute break.
Okay, now we will look at kind of a graphic representation of what we have just spoken about just now, we have read about. So let's begin now. Okay, so let's look at this diagram. We start with the eye faculty. Okay, you can replace this with any of the other 5: eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind. And then here in the case of the eye sees form, sees something, sees a picture, in this case a fish. Now the eye, it may be in the direction of the fish, but there is still no awareness, right? Notice sometimes someone will be talking to us, when the person is not paying attention, his mind is a million miles away, we say, right? So you need a third element, a third ingredient, that is eye consciousness. Notice another word for it is attention, all right? It's a simple word. There is a special term we use in the suttas for this. We'll come back to that in a while. Okay, then with this triangle, there is contact, all right? And you remember in the earlier talk, under feelings, you have another one arrow going down here, and that's the feeling arrow, okay? So this in graphic form, very easy to remember. This is how we experience things. This attention is very important, right? So in meditation, you have the mind object, mind consciousness. That's the attention, right? So this is what we want to cultivate when we meditate, all right? Now, what is interesting is just in meditation, you know, when we meditate, we are told we let go of the object more and more, right? And we also told that consciousness doesn't exist by itself. So what happens in meditation is the consciousness becomes more and more refined, very refined on the higher level. Then on the highest level, nirvana, there's no more object. Now, once there's no more object, we can't say there is consciousness, right? So there is something interesting to think about, but don't think too much about it. But basically, that's the development in terms of the nature of consciousness. Okay, now let's look a little further on this. What are we conscious of? What is it? We are conscious of context or stimuli of the 6 sense spaces, right? So in the Upadana Parivarta Sutta, S22.56, the Buddha says, and what bhikshus is consciousness? So this is another way the Buddha defines consciousness. So the Buddha says there are the 6 classes of consciousness, beginning with the eye consciousness, which gives us visual awareness, seeing. Simple word is seeing, right? That you are conscious of seeing, all right? Notice it's an activity. It is an activity. It's not a thing. This alone should impress us, should remind us of the nature of impermanence. It's changing, 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 becoming other all the time. Same thing with the ear. We have auditory awareness or sound awareness, right? Consciousness of hearing. Okay, consciousness of hearing, or the consciousness that is hearing, if you like. And then there's nose consciousness. The big word is olfactory awareness, the consciousness of smelling, right? So we don't say consciousness of smell, we say consciousness of smelling. You are aware of the action. It's the action that gives you the sense of this smell, that smell, right? So for example, one of the signs of COVID is you lose your sense of smell, right? So here there is this consciousness of smell, okay? And then tongue consciousness, the big word is gustatory awareness, consciousness of tasting. Of course, in worldly language, we say we are aware of the taste, yeah, but actually it's the tasting. Okay, there's no taste, there's only the tasting. Well, that's the way the Buddhists like to talk. And then body consciousness, the big word is tactile awareness, consciousness of touch, or touches, if you like, either way. Then there is here mind consciousness. There is what's called cognitive awareness. Okay, here the word cognitive is used in a narrow sense. The broad sense, cognitive covers everything. Okay, here's the narrow sense of the mental level. There is a consciousness of thinking. Again, here I use the word thinking quite loosely. There's so many other terms you can use, but remember, in my style of learning, I try not to be too technical. So be ready for connections with other senses at the same time, all right? If you're too technical, you end up as a computer, all right? Here, our idea is to free our minds from ideas in the end, okay? We want to clear away things we don't understand by understanding them, and then we let them go, set them free, then we progress on upwards like that. So these are, what are we conscious of? We are conscious of context. Another word is sense experiences, if you like. Now, let's look deeper into context or sense stimulus. Here again, we can look at this helpful diagram done by Ratna. We have 3 columns. So the eye, you have eye consciousness form, right? So at the bottom, you have a total of 18. They call it 18 elements. Okay, so here is the first 3. There are going to be 6 of them, right? So these 3 work together. There is contact, all right? So that's something you must imagine yourself, okay? And then the ear, there's ear consciousness, and then there is sound. The 3 together brings ear contact. And then there is nose contact. There is the nose present, nose consciousness, the attention, and smell. Okay. Technically, we will say nose, smell, and then in the middle, there is this consciousness, joining them together, okay? And then your tongue consciousness, taste. Of course, some of you may say, oh, I put something, say chili taste on my mouth. Even if I don't think about it, I still get the taste, right? So that is true. But if you cultivate your mind a bit more, you find you get used to the taste after a while. You get acclimatized to it over time. Okay, so this is called training. In other words, we can train the mind, the consciousness aspect. That's the wonderful thing. And then the body plus touch. When there is body consciousness or attention, you have body contact arises. Finally, you have the mind. Mind plus thoughts. In the presence of mind consciousness, attention of the mind, there is mind contact. So you get eye contact, ear contact, nose contact, tongue contact, body contact, mind contact. Okay, nose contact sounds a bit odd, you might say. We're like Maoris or Eskimos greeting each other, right? But here it's not in the physical sense. We're talking about in a mental sense contact. Same thing with the tongue contact, also mental sense. So here you are, you have three of each triad, and there are the 6 senses. So you get 18, right? These are called the 18 elements, dhatu, right? So you have 6 internal senses, 6 external senses. Sorry, 6 sense consciousnesses, 6 external senses. You have 18, right? So if there are 12 of them, that is this brown column and the pink column or red column here, you have the 12 sense spaces. They're called sense spaces, all right? Here you are, sense spaces. And if they're 18, you call them elements, okay? Because there are mental aspects involved, so they're called elements. All right, now next is we have a quick look at how we make sense of things, a little bit more, a little bit deeper look into nature of contact, right? So this is where we apply the 4 Noble Truths. So it's not just you want to know what contact is, we apply the 4 Noble Truths. So for example, you can begin by asking yourself, what is contact? So that is, you want to know the truth of it, the saññā, the first Noble Truth. Okay, and then of course, in the case of what is contact, you say, okay, this contact I'm experiencing, the sense impression I'm experiencing arises from the eye. There is this external object, and there is this attention consciousness. Then there is contact. So that's called the truth aspect, saññā, the first truth. You understand the nature of contact. Then secondly, you apply the second Noble Truth, samudaya, arising. Right? We don't say cause, we say arising. What is the arising of contact? How does it arises? Right? There is I, and there's the object. And I pay attention to it, that's why it arises. Okay? And then why do I pay attention to it? Out of greed, out of hate, out of delusion, out of fear. All right? What is the ending of contact? So how does it end, right? So basically remove the greed, remove the hate, delusion, fear, turn my mind away, don't think about it, don't show the attention, as mentioned in the Vitakka Santana Sutta, if you remember, right? That's how you end the contact, you end the experience. So this is very powerful psychology. It's very helpful in counseling, right? So we explain this in a practical way to the counselee. And then finally, what is the way leading to the ending of contact? In counseling session, we call this the contract, where towards the end of the counseling, we say, okay, can we agree on what you should do to heal yourself, right? So that's called the path. So here you see the 4 Noble Truths, the truth, the arising, the ending, and the path. It's a kind of problem-solving sequence. A healing sequence even. Now, we can apply it to just one aspect or to any of the 6, right? So the Buddha says there are also the 6 classes of contact, right? The eye contact, which is called chakku sampassa. The word for contact in Pali is passa, but when it is used in the phrase, the word sam is set in front. By the way, sam is the same as English, or rather Latin com or con. So you have contact, and that's a literal translation. Sam is con, passa is tact, contact. Okay, chakku sampassa. And the ear contact, sota sampassa. Sota is the ear. Nose contact, ghana sampassa. Tongue contact, in other words, tasting, is juha. You pronounce it as juha. The V is like W, juha sampassa. And then body contact, in other words, touch, kaya sampassa. Notice here the word is kaya, not Rūpa. Mind contact, mano sampassa. Notice the word here is mano, not chitta. Mano, because mano is the one that does this low-level work, if you like. Okay, so there you are. Chakku sampassa, sota sampassa, ghana sampassa, juha sampassa, kaya sampassa, mano sampassa, the 6 contacts. Eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, contacts. With the arising of the 6 sense bases, there is the arising of contact, right? So number 1 is the sense faculty. Number 2 are the bases. All right, then you have contact arising. And then number 3, when you stop the sensing, when you turn away, or when you let go of that idea, then the contact also ends. That here contact can mean experience also. It ends. Okay. The way leading to the ending of the contact is just this Noble Eightfold Path. So the Noble Eightfold Path trains us to do it on a more permanent, habitual, permanent basis of cutting down suffering through contacts. Negative experiences are removed. Okay. So these are lessons on how to lead our lives, right? So they're not easy to take in one go like that. You have to practice them and build them up bit by bit, and you understand them. So you have the twofold set of contacts. What are they? Here in the Maha-Nidana Sutta D15, we see the term nama Rūpa. All right, these are 2 big terms. So just pay a little extra attention, because these are quite profound ideas, but they're very useful. The Maha-Nidana Sutta is something we'll be studying next year. Not the first sutta, maybe 2nd or 3rd or later. I'm quite scared of this sutta, but after looking at it, I say, wow, this is really beautiful. I want to teach it. Okay, so there is, first of all, what's called conceptual impression. Take this as a big word for name, nama, the naming process. The Pali word is adivacana sampassa. Big word, huh? There you are. So sometimes it helps to remember the simplified term, okay? The naming process. So in our minds, we create these concepts. Concepts arises. There is no physical sense stimuli here. It's only mental stimuli. It's the mind that decides this, that the mind creates these concepts. Concepts arise in the mind, not at the physical sense level. Don't blame the eyes. It's the mind that behind the eye that creates those ideas. We conceive or ideate. We create an idea or a state, and we call them views. They arise that way through our minds. Okay. Now you have perceive, conceive, right? A very simple difference is this: conceive, right? We conceive babies, for example, is to create something which seems not to be there before, something almost new. All right. We just let it arise from there. Whereas perceive, we base it on some past ideas, memory, on a memory. Okay, so that's a slight technical difference in case you're interested. So here, in the case of conceiving, we mentally project an image. Okay, so we project an image. Well, of course, all these have been experienced before, but in the case of conceive, you just project an image. That's why it's, from an earlier experience is put in brackets, because you're not really aware of that. You're not even concerned with that. You just want to, you think you're creating something new. But whatever you do is always based on old habits anyway. Now we have the other one, okay? So this number one is based on the mind, whereas number two is based on the senses. That is what they call sense impression. This is the simple word is form, Rūpa. But here the big term is patigha sampasa. Patigha actually means like impact, okay? So we translate as impression, sense impression. So this seems as if they're arising at the sense level, but not so. It's still on the mind level, but this is focused on the sense itself. So the input is through a physical sense, an eye, ear, nose, tongue, or body, right? So it's a particular kind of imagination. It is based on something we see, hear, smell, taste, or touch. Whereas in number one, it's purely ideas, views. Okay. Whereas in the number two, it's actually a view of something we see, hear, smell, taste, or touch. They're kind of very subtle, so you don't really notice much difference, except in terms of trying to talk about it. So here, notice we use the word perception, right? Saññā. They arise through percepts. What arises are called percepts, right? By the way, not precepts. Okay, this is percepts. From percept is a noun. The action is perception. Okay, saññā. By the way, this word for conception is quite a difficult word. It's viññāṇa, or maññā sometimes. No? So here, in the sense impression, attention is given to the experience. So the word perceive or apperceive is used. In the case of number one, the attention is given to the idea in the mind. So in the sense impression, we tend to identify or recognize the projected image that we experience. So this is a kind of a more subtle way of noticing how we experience things on a mental level and on a physical sense level. So contact plays a vital role in the cognitive process, right? So in a sense, our study today is based mostly on contact, on sense impression. So here, by way of summary, from the Madhupindika Sutta, we have the triangle of experience. You have the sense faculty, for example, the eye, plus object, something we see, plus consciousness, that is viññāṇa. You have phassa. This is according to Madhupindika Sutta, M18, how we experience things. The faculty, object, consciousness. You get phassa. But then there's another sutta, the Mahahati Padopama Sutta. Oops, another typo here. The H is missing. Okay, H-A-T-T-H-I. Okay, Hati. There's no Pali word called Hati, by the way. Hati, H-A-T-T-H-I is elephant. Okay. So according to this Mahahati Padopama Sutta, the great parable on the elephant's footprint, there is sense faculty, sense object, attention. You get consciousness. All right. Notice the difference here. Here's consciousness, here's attention. All right. Here, in other words, the mind is directed towards the object. Then that particular consciousness arises. Okay. And this Mahahatipada Pama Sutta uses the word samanahara. This is a special Pali term for attention. Now you notice in early Buddhism, 2,500 years ago, we have a term for attention. So this is to show how advanced Buddhist psychology is in saññā. Here, the root is har, meaning to carry, to take, and then there's infix and then the sam, into putting them together, right? So saññā. So there you are. How you derive or analyze saññā. We have sang, a prefix giving an idea of putting together. Anu, meaning to follow after, to keep on doing it. Ahara translates as food, but it is what's called extended meaning. If you take ahara by itself, it means something that you carry along. Okay, so you carry it in your senses, in your mind. You keep on doing it, and you keep on focusing on it. Saññā means attention. Okay, now we're nearing the end already. Consciousness compared to a sandy beach. Now this teaching is important because we think that number one, there's a thinker. Because we think and we can see the sequencing of the thinking, we think, oh, there is somebody thinking behind it. I am thinking that there's a thinker, right? So consciousness appears to be continuous. It looks continuous and compact, but it's not so really. According to the early Buddhist psychology, it only looks continuous and compact, but really our thoughts are made up of discrete moments of thoughts, like discrete particles of sand. This is something I will show you a picture in a moment. So there you are. This is an amazing high magnification photograph of sand particles. These are all sand particles. Look how beautiful they are. They are tiny little particles and mostly silica, I think. I may be amazed to find out what each of those different particles are, you know. Now, I am not a scientist. I don't know what 1.0 mm stand for. It's a magnification. I don't know. Does it mean magnification 1,000 times? All right. So what this picture tells us and what this kind of examination tells us is actually there are spaces around all these little grains of, or these granules of sand. They're not really in contact with each other. So our thoughts are also like that. They come one after the other, but they're not in contact with each other. One rises, the other, one falls, the other rises, one falls, the other rises, like that. So we see this flow of consciousness, this series of discrete moments with nothing in between. All right. Now we're supposed to have that ball of the, what do you call it, the Newton's, those round things that knock themselves.
It's the next lesson.
Oh, next one, huh? Oh, next lesson. Okay. So, all right. Now this will go to the last diagram, which shows you how what I've just said works. Okay, imagine this pineapple as your mind consciousness. Okay, so there's always this mind consciousness present. All right. If it's not present, then your what's called the bhavanga life continuum is present, like when you're asleep. Okay, or when you're unconscious. This pineapple is not there, but there is this thing called bhavanga life continuum is present. Okay, but when you're awake, there's always this mind consciousness going through your head very fast, moment by moment. Okay, so here you have this one thought moment, all right, and you have another thought moment, or two thought moments. They're very fast. It's just to slow down, show you an example how the early Buddhists think. But something else happens now. You see an apple here, apple of the eye. Okay, let's say here, the eye is something that you see. So you don't just see, there's always this consciousness preceding the eye. Only you see, that's the consciousness. Because without the consciousness, just the eye, you won't see. So you have this consciousness that helps you, makes you see. Okay. Benjamin Libert, he has tried to measure the difference between these two, by the way. So there's something written there, and his findings are not conclusive, not agreed by all scholars, not by all scientists. You can read out about this in the, I think, a paper on consciousness, which in the Sutta Discovery series. Anyway, the point here is that here you have your mind seeing, okay, and then after that there's a banana. This is the ear. I don't know why I chose a banana to represent the ear. So just imagine banana sticking out your ears, so it makes you remember it better. So here you hear something, all right? Again, the mind must be present, okay? And only you hear, otherwise you won't hear anything, all right? Then you have a mango, the nose, okay? Smell something, mango's got nice smell, Burmese mangoes especially, right? And then you have this mind consciousness, smell, okay? And then a lemon, all right? Here's the tongue, okay? Tasting, right? So there's present mind consciousness, the tongue. You get the presence of taste, the contact is taste. And then you have the body, that's papaya, okay? So you have this body contact, of touch, feeling of touch again, consciousness, the mind, and then the body working together. You're conscious of the body, conscious of body experience. And then you go back to thinking, all right? So it goes on like that. So you notice this it looks like a stream of consciousness, but they move very fast. This is a stream of consciousness, which even the early psychologists have noted and spoke about, okay? And then you have, again, another thought, mind consciousness there, another one, and it goes on like that, okay? So this is the stream of consciousness. Imagine this, amazing how the early Buddhists talked about the mind, okay? So there you are. That's today's talk. We have about 20 minutes for questions. Okay.
Thank you, Piya, for the interesting presentation and very helpful talk. Okay. Now we have our Q&A session. Yes, please stop sharing so that we can see everyone. Okay, thank you very much. Everyone, please turn on your video so that we can have better interaction.
Yeah, okay, there's some question in the chat box I saw.
Yes, yes. Okay. Those who have typed the question in the chat box, so I'd like you to ask your question live, please.
Yes.
Diane is the first person. Diane, please unmute yourself.
Yes.
Yes, okay. I wanted to ask about something early on in the talk, which is how actually do you notice the arising of delusion in regard to the senses and in regard to consciousness? Because by definition, when you're deluded, you do not realize.
Yes, yeah, that's the tricky one, you know. We do not know we are being deluded, okay? We do not know we are being conned, usually. Of course, if you're very wise, you know, see? It does happen, but very rare. So this is where we must examine after the fact. So there is a very important Buddhist training, paccavekkhana. Paccavekkhana means you recollect, you look back. That is why reflection is very important. So you spend quiet moment during meditation also. Sometimes these ideas can come back, say, oops, I've been conned, you know. I've been conned so many times in my life, I didn't even know at that time. At that time, you did not know, you thought, oh, you know, you're being kind. And there goes, you know. But the one thing I'm safe is because my life has never been threatened. Okay, just conned in some other stupid ways because of my own lack of awareness. Then you look back and then you say, oh, okay, I should have done this. I should be more aware of this, you know. And you examine why people do that and how you respond to it and so on, okay? So delusion can be known, it can be corrected through wisdom, in other words. So through reflection or through what's called, what's the word I use? Looking back, no? Examine backwards. Okay, so all right, next question.
Okay, next we'd like to call upon Arthur.
Yes,
Arthur, please unmute yourself.
Thank you. I really enjoyed the presentation today. Form is used both in Nama-Rūpa and forms cognizable by the eye. And I've read that all Rūpa is made up of the 4 elements.
Yeah.
Does that mean every sense object is made up of the 4 elements?
Okay, I have to stop you there. I don't know what you call it philosophy. I think categories. Don't mix your categories. The word form has 2 senses there. Now, which form are we talking about? You got to ask yourself. Are you talking about form, body base, or form as in what we conceive in Western philosophy as matter? Broadly, so the narrow sense, the broad sense. You got to distinguish the 2. The confusion arises when we conflate the 2 meanings. You get the idea there?
No, because I'm thinking meditatively. For example, I've heard that when the movement of the abdomen is air element,
okay,
or the movement of the legs in meditation is air element.
Okay. Okay. Wind element. All right.
Yeah, wind element. And as I understand, those are the touch sense of the 5 senses.
Okay.
And if I feel hardness or if I feel heat, then those are elements, and so those are touch objects. So are all the sense objects made up of the 4 elements? Do they all count as Rūpa, the sense objects? I guess there's 2 questions there. Like one, are all observed sense objects made up of the 4 elements? And I mean, not like if I look with concentration at the sound, is that 4 elements that I see?
Okay, I have to sound really traditional Indian here. Yes and no, because it depends on how we look at it. All right, the Indians are very good at this. That's why they have four levels of truth, whereas Aristotle only has 2. You see, yes or no. All right, so whereas the Indians have 4: yes, no, both yes and no, and neither yes, no, no. So it's quite tricky. So the thing is, in meditation, we are not too worried about. We don't care too much for definitions. We just want a word that is a kind of a mark, a mental marker we can use to say that you stamp on it. It's just like someone has gone for a jab and okay, there you are, you stamp it, and you just do it and you let this person go. That's it. We're not going to think about it. Well, what does it mean? Then you're not meditating. So that's one thing you have to remember. So in meditation, you just label it, you let it go. All right. But of course, it's a useful label. Later on, after your meditation, you reflect on it. But when we teach, we are a little bit more exact. We show the differences. And that's when we are told the nuances and the differences of usage and so on. That's one way of looking at it. Yes, all those sense experiences, or should I say the sense objects rather, what the eye sees, hears, smell, taste, touch, they are regarded as the big version of form, Rūpa. And then there is the narrow definition of form. So you got to kind of more or less know the context that the meditation teacher is talking. Does that clear your, does it help?
I'm not sure. I guess because I'm asking, I've heard and read that part of the meditative progress is to see the 4 elements within oneself. And I'm assuming that means within the sense objects, whether internal or external. With the touch sense, like movement, heat, hardness, softness, it's easy for me to sort of conceive that these are the 4 elements. But I'm wondering if I'm mindful of the other sense objects, am I supposed to be able to break them down into the 4 elements as well?
It's not easy. The 4 elements meditation, you start with matter. Okay, matter, yes, you can take any of those sense experiences. Okay, so that is solidity, right? Earth element. Touch, yeah, it's possible. And then after that, you have fluidity when they come in contact together. Then you can reflect, for example, the way sound works as all these sound elements, they connect together, and then you have this idea of the sense of the sound. but to be very careful not to become too abstract. You end up philosophizing rather than actually reflecting. So when the meditator tells you see it as the water element, they are referring more to this matter aspect of congealing, of being together, how our body is held together. So it's a reflection on the nature of the body being held together, the organs held together. Okay, that's what it's used for. And then water, fire is quite easy. You see this decaying. But then again, you might be stretching fire a bit if you say, all right, so this sound is going away, so that's fire. That's a modern interpretation. We do not see that kind of interpretation in the suttas, because fire simply means this physical body as a whole is decaying. So we reflect on this decay of the body in that sense, all right? And then finally, the wind aspect is movement, right? Now, I won't be surprised if a teacher comes along with some amazing new explanation of all this in his own way, and then you have this new meditation method with a new name. That's possible too, but of course, it won't be sutta-based. So to me, the 4 elements refers to the nature of the body as a physical whole, and you reflect on it. That's the main use. There could be other uses, which are kind of, you take parts of it and then you reflect on a particular process of that sense experience. That may be possible, yes, but not as a whole, not as a rule. It's going to be difficult. You have to contrive it a bit then. Okay. Yeah. If you find a better answer with some teacher with new ideas, do share with me. I'll be interested to hear how they explain that. It's going to be very interesting. Okay, next, please.
Yeah, after you have some more question, have you finished asking?
Yeah, I have like 30 questions.
Okay, anytime. Okay.
Hold
on, Sita wants to ask, is it?
Yeah, I remember this one is in Satipatthana, where that is in Dhammanupassana. There is a lot of explaining about this puzzle, this contact, eye contact, and then the Four Noble Truths.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And what about them?
Yeah, that's why this diagram reminds me.
Oh, yes, correct. Yeah.
It reminds me so much about this sati.
Correct, yeah.
In Dhammanupassana.
You can use that for Satipatthana also.
Yeah, because the other one was vedanā nupassana and then citta nupassana. And this is the part in Atangago Magu.
Oh, that's
nearly the, yeah, this is nearly the end of Satipatthana.
Yes. Yeah, they're all connected. So
yeah.
Fine, in the end, you see this wonderful interconnection.
Yeah, it's
okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Sita. All right. Okay. Next question.
Yeah. Okay. We take one question from Elsie first.
All right, sure.
Okay. The learning mentioned restraint is to restrain like avoidance, and if either restraint or avoidance, how are we to learn this Dhamma through understanding? Because the teaching is to restrain and to some avoidance. By understanding the various stages, processes through contact, feeling, perception, volition, and perception, and consciousness is understood. But sorry, but again, the method is restraint.
I understand the question.
So in such condition, are we to turn?
Okay. We should not be too absolutist in our attitude. It doesn't mean one word applies all. Okay. The Buddha is talking about particular situations. All right. So refrain refers to the practice of the precepts. Don't kill, refrain from stealing. Don't steal, refrain from not taking, the not given, and so on. Okay, so there is a time for restraint. But much as we mindfully try to restrain when we know something is bad and wrong, we make mistakes. So restraint doesn't always work, except if you are properly trained as a good monk and you're practicing. Okay? Even then, sometimes we have difficulties. So the point here is that it is when you make the mistake that's very important. Then you reflect, you look back, okay? You recollect, you say, okay, I did this, why did, and then you apply the Four Noble Truths. First truth is you accept the situation as it is. That's truth. Second, why did it arise? Why did I break the precept? And then three, how can I end it? Okay, usually by removing the cause, right? And then four, you resolve to put into action. That's how you apply the Four Noble Truths into your practice. So it's not just restraint, it's only one of them. So if you look at the suttas on meditation like Vitakka, Sandana Sutta, and you look at other suttas on meditation, Sabbasava Sutta, for example, restraint is only one of them. Okay, not all of them. So learning to mistakes is also important, and then cultivating good qualities is also important. All right, and then the mental cultivation of joy and peace also strengthens you to do good. Okay, all right. Next question.
Okay, thank you, Piya. Brother Long, please unmute yourself.
So just now you were on your drawing, I think you wrote that the eyes, and then you put a fish there, and then I think the other one is contact, right?
Yes. Attention.
So I was trying,
yeah.
okay, attention.
I
guess I'm trying to explain my example, and then you have, if you can verify for me.
Okay.
So like, for instance, I read the comment, so my eyes read it. I saw that. Then my consciousness interpret it differently. So when I guess for me to train is like, I have to, I guess, let it go when I read it, don't put feelings in there. How do I put that into context, like what you're teaching?
Yeah, that's interesting. You put feelings. Somehow we cannot escape the fact that we do put some kind of feeling into our actions. The question is whether it's negative or positive. So I was just reflecting while you were talking, you know. In our line of work, teaching others, it's happy feelings very important. In a sense, learning to be funny, making people happy, telling people, you notice how happy people are when you tell them, hey, you're right, you know, right? So I often try to answer my FB questions and so on by saying yes, you know, I always say yes first and then something. So moments people like to see yes, you know, they say, wow, this guy likes me, you know. So these are little tags that kind of affirm people. So of course we should not sound too contrived, sound too what they call it, like movie stars talking sweet all the time. It must be natural, and try to, one way is to reflect the way they think in a neutral or friendly way, or basically laugh at it in a self-deprecating way, in a gentle way, that you know, you accept what they're saying, but then again, it's not so simple. You got to think of how to do this. So, and then again, you don't want to talk too much. Then you say, please tell me more, and they give you a 1 hour lecture. That's quite a trouble, quite difficult for us to. So if you're the leader of the group, yeah, you got to tell them, say, oh, you know, we all have our opinions, but what are we here for? So my method always in a class is to, let's get back to basics. Let's get back to what we are here for. Otherwise we'll be lost and people will stop coming, you know. So we kind of, the idea of the common good, all right? So at the same time, we want to hear this person, maybe he has some interesting ideas. And normally these kind of people, they have a lot of ideas they want to use, or they have this energy, they want to do something, you know. But they don't have the training, they lack the training. So that's one of the difficulties. So that is why one way is to prepare the class well. Say, okay, we'll get someone to prepare this, read these notes, and another one do this, and then we discuss this. That's another way.
But how do, okay, I understand you were saying like, so I was thinking about like, okay, I also think about I guess I'm trying to say is like when I see something, eyes contact, right?
Mhm.
Then I have to, I guess, you were saying like, I guess just now when I'm looking at the fish, I kind of like confused. I didn't hear a whole lot. I was trying to verify like, so how do I stop that when I look at that fish to tell myself it's just fish?
Oh, okay.
No feeling, no nothing, it's just fish.
Yeah.
So I was thinking like, is it like, I have to tell myself it's an illusion or this is impermanence?
Just smiling at it helps actually.
Oh,
Just
okay.
smiling at a fish. That's a nice fish, all right? Just let it go, you know.
Oh, okay.
And then notice, yeah, you can notice, oh, okay, wow, this is how my mind works, you know. And I think I don't need this. Let me let go. So this is your internal dialogue.
Okay.
There are monks who are famous for that in the Dhammapada stories. Shakupala was one of them. He was alone by himself, so he had this internal dialogue. So he said, look, so you have become a monk, and why are you doing this? And so on. So there is this self-talk. And self-talk normally is very safe because you're talking to yourself, you know.
Okay.
Not too loudly though, because then your wife will be wondering if someone in the room or what, you know. So you kind of mentally just have this dialogue and then define exactly what you can also be honest in self-dialogue. That's a great thing.
So we do the self-dialogue based on the Dharma, impermanence. Is it our perceptions? Is it because no?
Well, one way is just do it as you feel, and then you say, oops, what did I say? I should not be saying that. So you work with that and then you refine it. So don't set too high standards for yourself. Accept yourself as you are, and then notice, oh, there's the oops there, and then you correct that, and then you build up from there, and then you find you're more mindful that way.
Yeah, because sometimes it feels like, oh, then that feeling, it's very, I always like to say, it's like alien. You put a little blood in the alien.
You become
just
judgmental. You also become
yeah, then we're like, oh, it's very seductive, that feeling. Yeah, okay.
So we want to be a friend to ourselves, in other words. Now, imagine it's so nice to have someone telling us with a hand on the shoulder and say, oh, it's all right. This is how we should do it, you know. And you feel so good that someone can do that. And a lot of old people are feeling that way, you know. They even simple thing like using a telegram is terrifying. And they just need someone come along and say, hey, this is how you do it, you know. So yeah, and you do it to yourself, you help yourself. Okay.
Thank you.
Right. Okay, next. It's we
okay,
can
Piya.
Yeah.
I would say okay, yes, we learn and we try to prevent or accept and understand deeply, but problem is still keep repeating the error and keep learning, and has been 50 years still repeating since learning. Is there any method more concrete that will deeply rooted us to accept, understand, and not repeat the error?
Well, that's why the Buddha gives the choice of renunciation. Okay, I mean, the world is the problem, so you get out of it. You know, you take an alternative society called the saṅkhāra, especially the noble saṅkhāra. You see, the thing is, we may take this whole life to learn. One life sometimes doesn't seem enough. So, but time flies, you know. And we all do something, and the work we are doing is sometimes not, it's very challenging. It's so difficult, as the sutta say, to practice the Dhamma in a household, you know, with children running all over the place and doing things. And here we're talking about business, running a business. So I can imagine how difficult it is. So there you are, you got to simply tell yourself, okay, time has passed. Now, in this stage of my life, what can I do? What are the things I can let go? So you have this kind of, I don't know, 5-year plan or some kind of examining yourself as each year passes, how you can upgrade yourself. Okay, like for example, you know, we were living in Malaysia for a while with my 2 kids. They were not 3 yet; they were coming to 3. Then some of my students from Singapore came along and said, we'd like you to come to stay in Singapore. Maybe you can do better there. So we have to make up our minds, you know. So we look back and say, okay, you know, it means a lot of move, a lot of uncertainty. So we made a jump. So we have to make that quantum leap, that leap of faith, if you like. So same thing when you study the Dhamma, you got to try it out. You know, some people like to say, oh, you know, Kalama Sutta said, don't accept anything, you know. So don't accept any Buddhism. So you end up having nothing except your own views, and you're caught with it. That's called doubt. Doubt prevents you from even the first stage of sainthood. We can never be stream winning. You'll never reach stream winning. You'll never reach the path. Okay, so doubt is not helpful. It's okay to make a mistake, then stop doing it and go back and look again. What's the right way to do things? So it's okay to make mistakes, but get it right the next time. Okay. All right.
Okay, thank you, Piya. It's already 12 past. We continue?
Oh, this is the first time I see. I think LC is in the car, you know. So it's a
can't
moving,
see.
I have a moving student.
Okay, so comment from Father Long.
Okay.
Keep practicing. I met an 80-year-old monk. He told me he's still practicing.
Oh yes, that's wonderful. Buddha was 80 years old too.
And then there's another comment from Arthur. I think the answer to a lot of this question is concentration. How to separate the aggregates, how to regulate behavior.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah. Each of us have our level of experience, and at different times in our life, we notice certain things more clearly than others. And so it's wonderful to hear this in a nice way from others. Thank you for sharing. You know, I mean, it's really wonderful to have you here as friends, study the Dhamma together. All right, on this Sunday morning, we are in the morning here. Okay, I know some of you now it's 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. there. Do have a good rest after this. No, those of you in Germany and those areas in Europe. Okay, any last desperate questions?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Arthur Long.
Okay, Arthur and Long. Okay.
Yeah.
Who first?
Okay.
Long. Okay.
Long go first. Long still got question? No more.
No, I was just trying to say, like, I do a lot of failure on a lot of things, and then sometimes I'm being hard on myself. Then but because I have I'm lucky in Arkansas, I got good spiritual friends, just a few of us. We remind each other a lot, like you just have to pull yourself out. You pull each other continuously. You find your own spiritual friends. I think that's what Buddha said. Or Ananda asked Buddha, I guess spiritual friends is very important. Yeah.
I think to me you are very self-aware, and that's quite rare in teachers. Most teachers say, that's what I say, okay, take it or leave it, you know, sort of thing, where you care about what people think. So, and that can be quite painful, you know, but then it's worth it. You'll find you strengthen yourself after that. So anyway, I'm always here. So you have a friend here too, don't worry.
Yeah. Of course, Brother Piya. Every time I got some problem, I'll text him.
You took the long way to be friends. We're both from Malaysia, and now you are in one country. I'm in Singapore, and then here we are friends. I think that's fine too. Okay, Arthur.
Hopefully this is a salient question. It came to me when seeing your graph of how consciousness arises. Is the vortex of the 12 nidanas and dependent arising sort of the driving force of impermanence? Is that why fabricated things are impermanent, because spinning around the 12 links?
Okay, in simple language, Arthur is asking, is change due to things going through the cycle of causes and effects? I would say yes. That's everything in our life are conditioned in that way. Causes, effects, causes, effects. However, we must be careful not to say that everything has a reason. Effect and cause and reason are different. Reasons are what we attribute, what we put into the situation, right? So when someone says everything has a reason for happening, my question is, who gives the reason? Okay, right? So we are the ones who, and each of us, we have our own different reasons. Okay, maybe that's what these people mean when they say such a thing. But when in the Buddhist text, in the sutras, when we say things arise from causes and effect, we're saying the condition, they change. So watch those things, watch the causes and effects, and then you begin to understand things better. For example, a simple exercise, sitting by the very calm lakeside, you see water bubbles arising in the water, and then the circles broaden and then reach you, and then they just disappear, right? Now you see cause effect there also. I'm not going to tell you what you learn there. You do that reflection, watch that bubble rising, falling. Something seems to be moving, yet nothing is moving. Reflect on that. Okay. All right. So on that note, I think unless there are other urgent
there is
questions.
one last
one
question.
more. Okay, sure.
Amish asked a question. How should we dedicate marriage to the loved ones who pass away?
Okay. All right. It's best done with loved ones. The more the merrier. Okay. So you sit in a circle, you get it together, do a short puja to get people in the mood, have the person's photo, that helps too, or something to remember the person by. Otherwise, it's just mentally you can picture this person. Put your mind in a good state, remembering all these good things. Of course, you can start by getting each person to say something, a good memory of this person who has passed away, and that'd be wonderful, because you'd be surprised. You don't. Some of you may not have heard some of these good qualities of this person. Only good qualities, by the way. And the idea is to feel towards this person. Of course, we won't know. The consciousness of this person could still be floating around. You know, this person still kind of, the craving is still there, still connected with the family. He still doesn't let go. So then when they hear this, they feel happy. This is what we want them to feel. When they feel happy, they will let go. And then towards the end, you say, okay, we are gathered here in the name of so-and-so, mention a name, and wherever you are, we want you to be happy and all the good things, okay? All the positive things which the Buddha taught it, as if you're talking to this person, all right? And basically, simple Dhamma talk to this person and saying, may you be well and happy wherever you are. Then you can recite those verses, idang me nyati nang hotu, sukita hontu nyatayo, those words if you like, yeah. We have two suttas which you have studied on this, right? The, what's the Tirokuda Sutta, and the other one is that Majjhima Sutta.
Janusoni.
Sada Janusoni Sutta. Because if you want those suttas, just contact us through this to the internet, all right, and we will send it to you either through Facebook or through Telegram. Okay, any more last questions?
Anyone has any more last question?
Okay, all right, make sure that nobody goes away unhappy.
Okay, we take a photo now.
All right, please smile for the weekend.
Turn on your video, please.
All right, videos, yeah.
Hi, Phyllis, we can see you. Only see your head, your hair. Yes, higher a bit.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
Yes, good.
Okay, very good. Smile, please. Huh?
Okay.
So everyone in Malacca is safe now. Also, my hometown.
Okay, smile. Thank you. So now we will end our session. Thank you very much, Piya.
Okay, the closing slide.
Yes.
Okay, once again, on this Sunday, you have renounced the world for a short while, for about 2 hours, more than 2 hours actually. You have recited the 3 refuges, 5 precepts, done some meditation, listened to the Dhamma, and also asked questions. You have practiced patience for these 2 hours. You could have done a lot of things, but you have kept the precepts. Remember this moment as precious, as good, as wholesome. By the power of this goodness you have yourself done, may you be well, may you be happy, may I be well and happy too. May our loved ones be well wherever they are. They may be blessed with all the good things that they wish for. And may our enemies to see goodness in us and we see goodness in them, that they may be well and happy too. So send your kind thoughts to those people who are important to you this moment. Above all, let us show gratitude to the 3 jewels who have brought us together and given us so much wisdom, to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhiwademi. Bow down. Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami. Bow down. Supatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami. Bow down. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So have a good weekend, everyone. Good
Thank you, everybody.
Weekend. So we are coming to the close of this series also, yeah. Our Sutta study will continue until next year. Okay.
Thank you so much.